Hey there. There's no good story without a good antagonist. I mean, have you ever been amused by a story, whether a movie or video game, if the main antagonists are incompetent? If anything, they make the entire story much more interesting by giving it a necessary spice. The same as with video games. Without a challenging final boss, the entire game loses its excitement and flavor. That is even truer for the best among video games. Resident Evil, for example, has a very interesting storyline and equally thrilling gameplay. And it is the bosses that make it all possible. So in this video, we are going to be looking at the best ones, the worst ones. From demonic replicas of the undead to those that embody the epitome of gore and disgust, here are the top 10 Resident Evil bosses to spook you in your sleep. Number 10. Jack Baker, Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. Jack, the intimidating father of the Baker family, has been driven insane by a mold that players of the latest Resident Evil games are familiar with. He appears multiple times during the RE7 tale, and his encounters become increasingly challenging and ridiculous. After Ethan finally finds Mia and Zoe, the main battle against Jack is possibly the hardest in the game, requiring the skills of a marksman and the patience of a saint to see it through to the conclusion. However, the last confrontation with Jack at the end of Zoe DLC is perhaps tougher. Joe Baker must defeat his brother in a one-on-one boxing bout to end all boxing contests, armed only with his fists. It takes a few tries to become adjusted to Jack's techniques, and on higher levels, he's practically tough to beat. Number 9. Eustanac, Resident Evil 6. Due to his unrelenting pursuit of Jake Muller and participation in practically all of the prominent tales, Eustanac stands out among the large roster of other monsters. He's also one of the most intimidating bioweapons, with a tank-like bulk and menacing mechanical claw. In Jake's Resident Evil 6 adventures, players confront Eustanac many times, the first in a wintry Eastern European village as he clambers from a chopper to a chopper. Eustanac is undoubtedly one of the few positive features of Resident Evil 6's overbloat, since he follows the Nemesis formula of gradually becoming stronger. Number 8. Regenerators, Resident Evil 4. The first time players see a regenerator in Resident Evil 4 is certainly one of the game's scariest moments. Since they're capable of regrowing any limbs that are shot off with great ease. Despite Leon's well-equipped status and the absence of Ashley as a tag-along companion, these slimy creatures continue to pursue players until they equip their thermal vision and target certain vulnerable areas. In the guise of an Iron Maiden, a more powerful variant of the Regenerator is available. This demon clings to Leon and impales him with long nails sprouting from its skin. To make it out safely, it's vital to keep a safe distance and target the creepy Las Plagas cells that can be seen scattered all throughout its body. The Regenerators might not be necessarily the final boss, but they are definitely bosses in their own right. Number 7. Nosferatu, Resident Evil, Code Veronica. Next up, we have a boss whose background story is somewhat appealing and makes him scarier than he actually is. The story is of betrayal that resulted in an abomination. Alexander Ashford, a mad scientist beyond the typical kind, used his unique expertise of genetics to produce a pair of twins named Alfred and Alexia. Unfortunately, the two would soon turn on him, experimenting on him until he transformed into Nosferatu, a deformed and twisted creature. Those who know exactly what to do will be able to dispatch him swiftly. However, anxious gamers may have difficulty dealing with this monster, as he's faced on a helipad with no cover. He's hardly the toughest boss in the world, but he's certainly frightening. Number 6. Lisa Trevor, Resident Evil. Lisa Trevor isn't simply a faceless boss, but a fully realized woman with a heartbreaking backstory that entails her being experimented on for at least 20 years by Umbrella. The frequent testing has left Lisa Trevor with an animal-like posture and twisted look, making it all the more heartbreaking. I mean, killing an evil villain is really no big deal, but killing one who is not inherently evil and rather a victim themselves really makes you go through a hero's guilt. Although the interaction itself is simple, seeing Lisa scream and moan as you put shots into her is quite unnerving. Lisa Trevor is a great addition to the canon of the original Resident Evil, not least because of her frightening circumstances. Number 5. Verlugo, Resident Evil 4. Verlugo, which means executioner in Spanish, is one of the most aesthetically horrifying and physically formidable bosses in the series. He's the supposed right-hand man of Resident Evil 4 protagonist Ramon Salazar, and most gamers will avoid him by dodging, hiding, and finally escaping rather than facing him one-on-one at first. Finding the ideal approach to slay the swift and nimble monster Verlugo is what makes him so difficult. Rather than wasting time and energy pumping lead into Verlugo, the simplest method to get rid of him is to use the liquid nitrogen canisters to freeze him before blowing him into bits. It really is not a necessary part of the questline to kill Verlugo. However, if you decide to, the rewards are amazing. Number 4. U3, Resident Evil 4. U3 from Resident Evil 4 was the hardest monster to beat until later entries were released and often recognized as one of the most feral, fierce, and devilish foes in the whole game. It's still no stroll in the park when it comes to dealing with him nowadays. U3 is a flying hybrid creature, having human, insectilian, and reptile DNA. U3 scaled walls with hyper-aggression and compelled his opponents to battle in close quarters while remaining resistant to physical injury thanks to 6 appendages and a huge plague erupting from its back. It's also found in a maze-like cage suspended above an abyss, adding to the already high level of tension in the relationship. Number 3. Nemesis, Resident Evil 3 Remake. Nemesis from Resident Evil 3 Remake is one of the most difficult and terrifying monsters players will face. It's nearly tough to defeat this boss. Nemesis is as invincible an adversary as the series has ever seen, with ultra aggression, physical supremacy, and unrelenting assault modes. The towering, deformed face of Nemesis's ultimate form in RE3 elevates the villain to a whole new level of fear and dread. By lunging through the walls to approach Jill Valentine, the skyscraper-sized blob full of slimy tentacles launches one more frightening attack. Number 2. Mr. X, Resident Evil 2 Remake. Many Resident Evil 2 Remake players panic when they hear footsteps approaching because of Mr. X. It's never a good idea to face him head-on, especially since even after pumping him full of explosive rounds, he won't stay down for very long. Players are advised to avoid direct encounters with him. Even Mr. X's plain appearance at the beginning of the adventure is unsettling, as his traits gradually become more monstrous and unsightly. Players simply cannot defeat or stop this 7-foot stalker and instead must navigate RPD headquarters using an entirely different route than they had intended. Number 1. Lady Dimitrescu, Resident Evil Village. Now, I'm pretty sure this was what you were guessing. I mean, it makes sense since she's been literally everywhere since the new game came out. But that is not the only reason Lady Dimitrescu is on this list too. The character she embodies is intimidating, frightening, strong, and mysterious. This is the perfect recipe for a good Resident Evil boss. The Cadeau gave Dimitrescu amazing regenerative powers, the ability to heal from any wound in seconds, and the ability to maintain her appearance. Her talons are razor sharp, and she can turn into a dragon-like monster with retractable talons. Her blood supply has been compromised by an unspecified disease, and she needs to drink blood on a regular basis to survive. She should not be confronted head-on, because you simply cannot match her strength. You need smarts more than strength. Her character is elegant, mysterious, and scary at the same time. Well, that is about it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like and comment to let us know who your favorite is. Subscribe and hit the bell icon for more. And as always, thanks for watching.